Okay. Well, hi, my name is Angie Hawkins, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I have my sweet, sweet friend Jackie here with me, and we're taking you in on a journey, inside scoop of our lives, of our love life. And my heart behind this channel was just to talk about dating, talk about relationships, heartbreak, I mean, all the things, and more importantly, getting past those things so you can fulfill the call that's on your life. I think people are just living on getting by, and their standards are really low. And so whatever they can get, they'll take. And so we kind of talked about some red flags in my previous video before this. If you haven't seen it, definitely take a chance to go check it out. It's so good. It was with my dad talking about just red flags. He was the ultimate wingman. He was the guy that, anyway, yeah, part of all my life, all the guys that I liked, he was like, that's a no. Dear God, that's a definite no. And in the gym, because he works out with me a lot, he's like this permanent, he's behind me like, oh, don't even think about it, dude. Like, he's like shooting the looks. You're a definite no, you're really cocky. Like, he's just that person. So Jackie's been such a good friend that we've just kind of been able to do life together on some things. And I'm kind of that person for her too, where I'm like, yeah, no, Jackie, not that one. I'm like, you definitely got to keep walking, you know. You're a definite no, don't even ask, you know. So not that we're not trying to be single permanently, but it's just really recognizing, like, where are you going in life? What are you doing? Where are you going? And letting God be a part of your life. That's such a taboo thing. People don't really want to involve God in their love life. And I understand what they're saying. They think he's going to say no to everything. And that's not true. He cares about you. He cares about your heart and wants to bring someone that will be someone that you'd be honored to be with. I remember talking with you when, gosh, where were we? Cherry Street, maybe? Anyway, we were just chatting about just God wanting to bring someone that was what your heart desired and that you'd feel honored to be with. And I remember telling Jackie that I don't remember the last time I felt that way around a guy. I felt like they always were pushing my boundaries, whether it was physically or emotionally. They were just constantly pushing what I asked of them. And they weren't respectful. They weren't honoring anything I asked. And I'm like, good Lord, does any guy respect what I'm saying? Like, they were not respectful at all. And she definitely has some stories too, where we were so tired of that picture. And that's kind of when we would just talk about, let's get God in this thing. Let's let him be a part of our lives where he has the say. Because if we keep crashing and burning and getting involved with these wrong people, by the time somebody good shows up, I don't want to make them pay for all my baggage, all of my distrust, all my hurts from these past relationships. And so there has to be a game plan of preventing those things. Not saying you'll never encounter it, but you can definitely minimize it. So we talked about red flags. We're going to kind of go into a deeper dive of red flags. We talked about what they were. I'll just briefly share on it. Controlling, easily angered. They can't, they have to have things their way. And if they don't get it, they just are really hot and cold. Like, they're happy one minute, they fly off the handle the next. That is a red flag. They don't have to come from prison or be cheating on you or be extremely physically abusive to be a red flag. Obviously, those are. Let's look at let's dial it down. That's level 10. What about a level 7 or a 5? Do they have a hard time saying they're sorry? What happens when you tell them, hey, I don't want to do that? Do they get really upset and belligerent? Like, how are they when they hear the word no? Is everything have to be about them? And let's face it, there's a lot of people think that way. Guys and girls both. Life is about them. So you want to be with someone who it's a give and take. So I wanted to pull in Jackie on this because this girl's got some tea to share, but I wanted her to just share some things of what happens when you override those red flags. He is everything you want, or she's everything you want. And then you're like, just kidding. I'm going to keep going. I want that. You see these red flags, we're like, yeah, we can work with that. Let's keep going forward. What happens when you override it? Like, I'm asking you, like, is there someone that you dated, someone that you were in a relationship with that you noticed some red flags, or you noticed some things that were like, I don't know about this guy. You have like that uncomfortable feeling. And you're like, there's something like scratching me about this guy. I'm going to go ahead and go anyway.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Like every single relationship.
I mean, every single one. I just love it. She's going to keep it honest. This is why we're
We'll
here.
keep it real today.
We're going to keep it real. No, I've never been in a bad relationship. We are not going to be those girls. We want to be honest.
Yeah. We want to
So,
be honest.
because
And
there's good, there's bad, then there's the ugly, there's everything in between. So we're going to cover that. But share a story of something you encountered.
yeah, so I mean, one of the first, adult relationships that I had was in college, and I really liked what you've shared in your past videos, and what you and your dad have talked about is just honor and the importance of that, because it really does boil down to some of those root issues. And so the red flags don't necessarily look like the dude like screaming right off of day one. I mean, that's going to scare anyone away. Most people in their right mind are not going to get into a relationship like that. But how are they treating the people that they esteem or hold closely to them? Their parents, people that they look up to, other friends, even strangers, like waitresses and service people.
That's
how
so huge.
do they treat people around them? And so I noticed for me that one of the relationships that I was in, I noticed little things like that. He didn't really treat his mom great. He was kind of short with people around him, and just didn't really have manners. And it was so easy to override that, but there was always something deep down that was wanting to figure that out, because that's not how I grew up. So it was little things like that that then eventually I kind of reasoned out, swept under the carpet, because again, the package looked great. I mean, I love that you talk about Vin Diesel, because I'm like, well, my guy looked like, he was on the football team, super athletic, it looked great, but that's not everything. And so we have a tendency to reason things out because of what we're just looking at with our own physical eyes, and totally missing some huge character flaws that aren't just, hey, they're working on them and they're work in progress. These are serious things that eventually come back around to bite you for overriding them later on.
That's so good. And I love that she brought out that he didn't treat his mom right. And a lot of times that comes across in, are they always really short with their parents? And I understand we're not saying you don't have like a day where you guys are on not seeing eye to eye. I mean, I came from a home where my parents divorced. Believe me, I understand really hard home dynamics. But the importance of that situation is it's when they treat their parents with disrespect, that's a reflection of who they are. And that was something we talked about in the previous video. You definitely want to see that and catch it. But how you handle yourself, how you talk to someone, that is a huge reflection of who you are. It has nothing to do with what they did to you. Because again, life is 90% of how you handle things, 10% of what happens to you. And so if that guy or girl is really disrespectful to their parents or people that are in leadership or authority or whatever, that tells me that, number one, they probably have a victim mentality, that anything that doesn't go right or happen, it's someone else's fault and they don't take ownership. That's a red flag to me, because they can never be wrong. They're always going to be right.
Right. Well, I noticed that too with the same guy, that it was really hard for him to apologize when he did make mistakes or he was in the wrong with things. Really hard for him to see the part that he played in the disagreements that we would have. And very often it comes down to that, a lack of respect and honor for those people. They also have that victim mentality and don't really take accountability for their part to play in things. So, and you don't see that when you first start dating the person.
No,
I mean, we're in a great infatuation phase.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you brought that up. We're going to talk about some of that infatuation phase. So speaking of, that infatuation phase goes on for a minimum of like 6 months, usually to a year. And we've even seen studies. We were looking online. Statistics were saying 6 months to a year and a half. That's crazy. I mean, people have their best foot forward for 6 months to a year and a half. You're not going to see the things that you need to see if you don't give time. And we live in a world where everybody wants things yesterday. They want things to happen just quick. And unfortunately, the problem with that is if you don't give time for those red flags to come to light that we were talking about, they can't say they're sorry. They don't take ownership. They get angered easily. And we're not talking about once in a while these things come up. We're talking about pretty consistently. They almost will never apologize for something they did. They are upset a lot. Not I had a bad day. they had a bad years. Every day's a bad day. You know what I mean? They're always really negative. They are really disrespectful to their parents or the people that are in leadership, and all of those things that keep coming to mind. And so those are red flags, but those don't come to light in 2 weeks, guys. I would love it if they did, and sometimes they will, but most of the time it's like 6 months.
Well, yeah. Well, and people don't really give it
Yeah.
the time that it needs to actually evaluate things, because our society is so quick. If you watch all the TV shows on dating, or everything has an app now, it's so quick to enter a dating relationship. There's this pressure from society to not even evaluate it from an objective standpoint. It's I remember that song that came out.
Oh my God.
What is it? Carly Rae Jepsen.
Oh no.
She's like, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe. Like, girl, you just met him 90 seconds ago.
You have no idea who that guy is, and you're like,
and you're giving out your number.
Here's my number. Could you call me? There's also another movie. He's just not that into you. Same situation. Anyway, I saw the promo, and I was like, oh, dear God. And she's like, oh, my God, call me tomorrow. Could you call me? Tell me when you're going to call me. She'll know this guy. She met him at a bar. And she's like, we're soulmates. And he's like, you're crazy.
Instant.
But how many of us are looking for something that we thought came out of a freaking Hallmark, it came out of the Disney Channel, it came out of Mr. Wonderful or Miss Wonderful, and we think that person's right in front of us that you met 2 seconds ago, and you're like, you are it. Let's go. There's nothing else to discuss. You're beautiful. I'm beautiful. Let's see it together. And that's like the extent of your standards. And there's no time given. And we were just talking about, it's so important to give time, because people relax when they feel like, number one, you've established you're just friends for right now. That is what we were talking about. Steve Harvey made this comment of the 90-day rule, and I love extending it to more of 6 months. But that concept is of being friends with that person. Hey, let's get to know each other. There's no rush. Let me get to know you. You get to know me. And the moment you establish that you're just friends, it's amazing how they relax, guy or girl, doesn't matter, and their true selves come out. And that's what you want to see. You don't want to see them impressing you, their best foot forward, they're trying to be with you. That all needs to get out of the picture. How do we eliminate that and see the real them? We see it by saying, hey, let's just be friends for right now. Let me get to know you. And then if we feel like we're on the same page and there's agreement, then we'll take a next step forward. But you're giving that person, hey, let's be friends for 6 months. Let me find out who you really are, so you can see what they're really about. Now they're not impressing you. Now their best foot is not forward, and they're totally themselves authentically. And now you have a clear picture without infatuation involved of who you'd actually be really with. So I love that we were bringing some of that up with the 90-day rule. I say 90, it's really 6 months. Steve Harvey says 90. I'm going to challenge you to 6 months. And the reason I say that is because I think you get a glimpse of who that person is in 90 days. You don't see much until it's really 6 months out. You just don't. People are going to impress. They want to get what they want. And so they are going to try to hide all their flaws, of course, so that they can get what they're after. And it really takes time for them to relax and be themselves. So I love that she just brought some of that stuff out of looking for those things. There's this other song that's in my head. Anyway, Backstreet Boys. You want to go ahead and sing that one? I'm just kidding.
Well,
of standards of what people are looking for.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so easy to settle and lower our standards too when you've already jumped into these relationships really quickly. They've gone sour, and then you find yourself going from relationship to failed relationship. And it really takes a toll on how you probably view your self-worth. I know it did for me, Angie.
So good.
Because by the third or fourth crash and burn, I'm sitting here thinking I'm the problem. You know, why do I keep picking these bad guys? I don't think I'm a bad person at all, but what is wrong with me that I keep attracting the wrong type of men? Who have no care for any part of my self-respect. They don't want to put me first. They don't want to treat me the way I treat them. And really just getting the short end of the stick as far as my dating life went. And I mean, I know for me, it led me to settle for the next relationship that I even felt like was, I was getting the bare minimum. But God doesn't want us to settle for the bare minimum.
That's so good.
If I had involved him in that
Yeah.
next relationship, I could have avoided dragging on things to the degree that it went. Because, I mean, I've shared with Angie, but
Yeah.
ultimately I settled for the best that I thought I could have after all these failed relationships. Okay, he didn't, necessarily yell at me. He wasn't physically abusive, but there were several red flags that I overrode, and I ended up in a marriage for a couple years. And I never thought I would see myself divorce, but that was basically how that relationship ended. And it's a major heartbreak. I mean, I know you shared on your video just dealing with some of that stuff, being a family member and a daughter in the post-divorce situation.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It is hard.
To go through that kind of grief. And then for me to feel like now I'm an even bigger failure because I failed another relationship into this level. It really does take a lot of just introspect as far as let me examine where I think I'm missing it and my worth. That's causing me to look at relationships in the way that they're less than intended.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that she talked about it does take a toll on your self-esteem, because if you make bad choice after bad choice, bad relationship after bad relationship, your self-worth and value starts to diminish. It really does. You feel like you're the problem, you're the issue. And everybody does have a part to play. You could be a part of some things, but ultimately the reason we brought God into the picture of dating was because he sees things that we don't. He just does. I mean, he knows the intents of every person's heart. He knows the people that are for you and the people that just want to take advantage of you. And they have no intention of serving you and adding to your life. They want to take. And so I think so many people are looking for someone to fill me, meet my needs. And when you go into a relationship with that mindset, you're always going to take. And relationships don't work like that. When you're always going in with what can you get out of it rather than what can I put into it, you're going to almost destine the relationship to fail, because people don't want to be used. And essentially, if you're taking, you're using. It's true. And so we just were like, okay, God, we need your help. You know the people's intents of their hearts. Everybody's been through stuff. How can I move forward if I've been through baggage, hurt, disappointments, bad relationships, divorce, all of those things? And I love that God says he would heal the brokenhearted. It's one of my favorite scriptures in Luke. Heal the brokenhearted and set them free. And I brought God into my life because I wanted healing. I wanted restoration. I came from a divorced home. I didn't trust marriage. I didn't trust relationships, and I needed to get healed. And this journey of being single and trusting God with my heart, he completely healed my heart of those things. And I want marriage and I want a good relationship. And I don't have this brokenness hanging over me that I did deal with. And our heart is that no matter where you are, maybe you're in the middle of that brokenness, God wants to heal and restore and be a part of your life. And whether you came from a divorce, maybe you've just been in and out of relationships, God can take those broken pieces and restore your life like it never happened. And that's the beautiful thing he did with my part of, I feel like the divorce of when my parents split was a distant memory. I mean, those memories don't hurt me and carry into my life anymore like they used to. And with her situation, God has really just done amazing healing in her life too. And that's what we want to show you. God's not looking for perfect. He's not looking for those who've had it all together. We don't, but we're seeing that whether you have it all together or not, God can come in the middle of it, any of it, and turn things around. So just a quick recap of some red flags. We noticed there's some red flags. Obviously, we want to pay attention to things. How can we prevent that? So course number 1, we talked about 6 months is really helpful. 90 days is like a bare minimum, but at least start somewhere. Not everybody wants to wait 6 months, but please at least start with 90 days. Give yourself time to see some things come to light that maybe you're not seeing right off the gate. And keep them as a friend. People will be themselves when they're just friends. You want to see them in that light. Tell them out the gate, hey, let's just be friends. We'll develop a friendship. If things go good, we'll talk about it at that time. And then have someone that can have accountable to. Like, who's that friend in your life that is older than you? My dad mentioned good 15 years, that really loves you, cares about you, but they want to pour into you and warn you of things that can hurt you. So who's that person in your life that has wisdom, that has been down the road and can flag you down. And then pray. My prayer was so simple. I was like, God, I'm going to like somebody. Let's just be real. And whether it's right or not, you will know that. If it's not right, show me what I need to see. Show me those red flags that I need to see to walk away from it. That was it. I didn't just fast. I didn't go into a crazy session. I just, God, I need your help. I'm going to like somebody along the way, whatever it is that I need to see. It comes from Daniel 2:22, the hidden things being revealed. That's what I prayed. Bring those hidden things to light, those red flags. That's what those hidden things are. Let me see what I need to see to walk away from it. So those are some practical things that you can do to avoid pitfalls. I know she agrees. It's like, you have to have something practical. And we wanted to bring that. That way you're not like, okay, great. I'm in the middle of something. Now what? God, how do I get out? If you're in the middle of a relationship that's not something that you realize there are red flags, everything you said, I'm in the middle of a relationship like that. How do I get out? You can always get out. It's never too late. I think people stay in something because they think it's too late and they might as well give in. It is never too late. You can get out. You can absolutely be rescued out of that because God's wanting to take your life further and further. And if you're in a toxic relationship that is absolutely controlling, manipulative, you're not going the same direction. I mean, all those things, they don't even apologize. All these different red flags frequently, you can get out and God can show you how. He's there for you. So we are so grateful that you were tuning in with us and being a part of our inside scoop of our lives, sharing our stories, and tune in next time. Like this channel, subscribe. If this was helpful, we want you to share and with all of your friends. Thanks so much.